welcome to Astrology and Coffee with the Academy of Logic and Light. I am Megan, and I'm here with our teachers, Julie and Elle. We are so excited to talk today about the sign Mercury and where it's at in your chart and what that means. So if you are interested in learning about that, or even Mercury retrograde, which is happening right now, we've been experiencing the effects in our lives. We are going to be talking about all these fun things. We do have a part 2, so if we don't cover something you're interested in, next week we will. You can watch this stream now, or you can catch us later. And yeah, we're just excited to be here. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Academy of Logic and Light. So we are a community educational platform that provides a safe space for people to practice their spirituality without being indoctrinated. We have monthly meetups. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and we have a Facebook group. You can also find us online at academyoflogicandlight.org. We also have a Patreon. So if you're interested in supporting us, you can pop over there and see the different things that we're offering. And if you're interested in teaching with us today, like Julie and LR, you can reach out to us on social media or email us at academyoflogicandlight@gmail.com and let us know what you're interested in teaching. We're just here to help people discover new things and get rid of the gatekeeping aspect that seems to be so popular with all these like ancient and magical, mystical arts. So yeah, if you're interested in jumping on, we'd love to have you. And I think that's all I have to say. I'm going to run a quick intro and turn the time over to our teachers. Thanks, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. My AirPods keep going back and forth from my phone to my laptop, and I'm like, can you stop?
You're like, wait, where am I?
Oh my gosh. Okay. It is a little Mercury. We got this. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but other than that, I'm chilling. My car wouldn't start today. Dead battery. It's fine.
Oh man, that's the worst. I feel like it always just happens out of nowhere. Like you don't really get any warning for those things.
It's like drained energy all of a sudden from Mercury retrograde. I truly believe that because I know the battery.
This one's like really attacking some technology. I'm like noticing.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so I'm good. I'm just recovering from a cold, so I've just been like laying low and turning my phone off because drama. I just don't want to be a part of it.
Other people's problems. Sometimes you just can't take all of it in. You have to just like separate yourself and then feel better, and then you can.
I'm like, I'm healing. I don't need any extra.
Yeah.
These slides were so hard to make, by the way, during Mercury retrograde. Every time I scrolled over the letters, it changed the fonts, the size, the everything. So that was super fun. So they're going to be inconsistent, but I did the best I could.
It's fine. It's fine. You know what? This is what you guys get. It's legible. You can read it. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing the best that we can here. Before we get started, I wanted to mention really quickly, October, I think 21st to 22nd, we are having our retreat in Park City. It is going to be a super fun event where Elle, Megan, I, Kat, and Sammy, our newest teacher, will be joining us, and we have a lot of really cool things planned, plus a taco bar. I mean, I know that's like my selling point, but also hot tub and gym access and like good times. It'll be a blast. And the price is up to $400 right now. October 20th and 21st. Thanks, Megan. All right. So Mercury, it's our funky planet. It's a hot topic. It comes up 3 times a year, I think, right? Is it 3 times a year?
Yes.
And everyone's talking about it, even people who don't believe in astrology. So let's dive into it.
I love when people are like, oh, Mercury's on Gatorade again. Like, I'm like, I know you've seen the meme and I know, but like, let me explain it to you. And they're like, oh, no, thank you. I just thought it was funny.
Like, I also think that those are the people who are like texting me, asking me the most astrology questions, but don't want to like study it. And they're like, oh, can you tell me about this and this? And I'm like, or you could listen to one of the 21 free classes that we've put out.
We even headline what topics we're talking about. I mean, it doesn't get easier than that.
It's literally, I've made slides. So that we're doing Mercury in 2 weeks, which is still kind of a challenge because there's a lot of information. This particular class is the fun facts about Mercury's, its associations, the elements in the Mercury, and the Mercury. I don't know what I did there. Told you it was hard. Keywords for Mercury in each of the signs, Mercury in retrograde, and then we'll have our questions so you can bring your charts from astro.com. Quick cheat sheet. The planet is the what type of energy or essence. The sign is the how do you use that energy. The house is the where, what areas of your life does this show up. And now we're starting to slowly get into aspects, and the aspects are the dynamics. Blue lines are a little bit easier, red lines are a little bit more challenging. I found all these like really weird quotes about Mercury retrograde. I was like,
reading it. I was like, what is this?
There was a lot. There was actually like an entire website about just Instagram captions for Mercury in retrograde, and I was like, wow. It's a hot topic when
it's a hot topic. Yeah, when it has its own hashtags, it's a hot topic.
And it's like a pretty big hashtag actually. Okay, so this was some cool, interesting conversations because Mercury is the planet of communication, travel, and technology. So some of these questions were interesting. Do you easily strike up conversations with strangers, or do you only open up with friends? Are you the kind of person who, on a moment's notice, will have a bag packed and rush off on a trip, or do you prefer quiet evenings at home, listening to music, delving among your friends? You can start to answer these questions by looking at your horoscope to find the position of Mercury, the planet of the mind. Fun facts: Gemini and Virgo, and it rules Gemini and Virgo, and the 3rd and 7th house. That was like a little tricky because I was like, wait a minute.
6th house.
6th house.
Yeah, 6th house, not 7th. Sorry.
Thank
I was
you.
like, I should have looked at that, but.
Exalted in Aquarius, detriment is Sagittarius and Pisces, the fall is Pisces, and the elements are earth and air. Time spent in each sign is 30 days.
When you think about, sorry, my baby's like losing her shit back there. When you think about like the sun, and Mercury is the closest to the sun, so they spend the same amount of time, the 30 days. And you will find, just fun fact, that your Mercury's never too far from your sun sign. It's most likely in the same, but it could be one sign after. So if you're like, or before. So if you're like, I'm a Capricorn, but my Mercury is in Sagittarius, or just mine's Libra, and a lot of people have like, hey, get down. Sorry, my cat's gonna slowly walk across. It's all a mess. But so your sun and your Mercury are always very close to being the same sign. It's only a couple signs away.
Okay, that makes sense. And now that I'm like looking at everyone's charts, I'm like, I see it.
It's there.
The basics of Mercury: expression, what you say to get your point across, gathering information, intellect, the way you think, the way you talk. So that's kind of a big one. Mercury controls. And what are the stories we tell ourselves? What are our repetitive patterns and thoughts? And this is why people hate Mercury. It brings up old patterns and old thoughts if you haven't done the work. The archetypes that are associated with Mercury is the magician, the holy messenger, the scribe. Themes are communication, intellect, study, knowledge, travel, perception, logic, dexterity, mystery, and technology. That's cool. I'm learning this. I'm reading this for the very first time.
Love this.
One of the way of understanding the meaning of a planet is to become familiar with the mythic attributes and deeds of the god or goddesses who share the same name. This archetypal approach reaches back into the heart of astrology origins that predicted upon the divine nature of the planetary energy. Deities associated with the planet Mercury, most notably Mercury, the Roman pantheon, also known as Hermes in Greek pantheon. Hermes was the messenger of the gods and associated with the qualities like wealth, good fortune, commerce, fertility, thievery. Ooh. In Rome, Mercury is worshipped as the god of trade, profit, merchants, and travelers. I like all the common things.
Mm-hmm.
Mercury in the elements, we've got our water signs, dreamy, nonverbal communication. If Mercury is a water sign, your mind is a quiet, intuitive, and receptive. At worst, your mind gets swamped with feelings and can't think straight or find words. At best, you're patient and able to wait for your feelings to subside. This then allows for the thoughts to become clear.
Yeah, Mercury in water is a little challenging because it doesn't so much thrive there. It's more of, water's emotions and not so much thinking or thought, it's feeling. So this is just sometimes a little challenging, especially like Pisces. Pisces have it the worst when their Mercury's in Pisces because Pisces are feelers. They're, daydreamers. They're creative in their own internal kind of way. And it's not easy. It's not an easy placement.
I'm like looking at everyone's in here. I'm like, who? Most of mine are Earth and Fire Mercury friends so far. Sorry, Fire and Earth.
Nice.
Oh, I found one water. Like, okay, who else do we got? Fire, impulsive, blunt, opinionated. If Mercury is in a fire sign, your mind is fast and impulsive. You say the first thing that comes to mind, which can often be very instinctive and psychic. The danger is you can stick your foot in your mouth or be inappropriate. Your gift is you can shoot from the hip and no one has to wonder what you're thinking.
This is not a bad one. Unless Sagittarius and Mercury, that's obviously a little more challenging because they are very blunt and sometimes there's no filter and that gets them into a lot of trouble. I think of when I read this, like, okay, very Sagittarius. But like Aries, they're very direct. Leos are very direct, but they also have this way of kind of being charismatic. It kind of like flows a little better than I would say Sagittarius. There's definitely impulsive, reactive, very strong opinions here. The way they think is a lot of times, Aries isn't a fixed sign, but in this placement, it kind of makes it more like their way or the highway. So they kind of lose that cardinal energy in this placement and are more stubborn.
That makes sense. Mercury in air, fast, smarty pants, impatient. If Mercury is in an air sign, your mind is verbal and quick. You are gifted with words, almost too much at a time. Being decisive and sure-footed is not your best trait, but you are a very good counselor or therapist because you know how to ask questions.
Mercury, speaking, thinking in the air signs, which are all about thinking. It's a beautiful placement. Gemini especially. Gemini is the best Mercury to have because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It has Mercury energy. It is just really flowy. It's like the way they speak just comes out. It's just very easy, makes sense some of the times, unless you're Mercury retrograde, because my husband is a Gemini Mercury. And let me tell you, we were not on the same page this weekend. And I'm a Libra Mercury. I know. And I'm like, we communicate so well. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. But yeah, so air is a good one to have. Isn't your Mercury? Oh, yours is in Sagittarius, huh?
No, it's Aquarius.
Oh, nice. Okay, look at you.
I know, right? Few air signs. Let's see. Earth, Mercury. Slow, cautious, good student. If Mercury is in an Earth sign, your mind is practical and deliberate. You may find that you have fixations and repetitive thought processes that require routine. You are designed to build organized structure and be the one that is reliable and consistent.
I think this is like a good one. I know a lot of people that have like Taurus Mercuries and they speak so practical and so calm. It's almost comforting. Like, oh, okay, well, what you're saying makes sense. It probably wouldn't make sense, but it would, even if it didn't, it would be like, oh, okay, I trust you. Because it's so like, comforting. And then Capricorns and Virgo, same. Virgo, again, ruled by Mercury. So you have that Mercury energy. Virgo and Gemini are a little different with their energies, obviously. Virgo is going to be more direct and a little more harsh than like a Gemini Mercury. But they flow, they say things, they're good speakers. Virgos, when I see a Virgo Mercury giving a speech, it's like you are honed in, you are listening, and you are like feeling everything that they're saying because they're just such good speakers.
I love that. Kind of like make you feel safe in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, and they demand attention. That's the other thing is a Virgo Mercury, when they're speaking, they're like, listen here, I'm speaking. I want everyone's attention. If you're on your phone, like they're about to call you out and that shit pisses them off real bad. I
That's
firsthand
funny.
experienced it. I'm like, yeah.
If we go through the signs, do you mind? People can read these? So do you
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
just
I know.
saying
We'll just
your
kinda...
interpretive piece?
Yes, and I kind of did with the elements, but just to go into it a little more.
Yeah.
In Aries, Mercury, again, they're going to be direct, they're going to be fast, they're spontaneous, and their words and how they speak. So when you think of Mercury, each sign you have to think about, okay, what kind of energy does Aries bring? Okay, Aries is strong, it's bold, in a place of how you think, but also Aries is ruled by Mars, so you need to take in that energy too. They might be a little combative. They may think like combative. They may think sometimes like, oh, these people want to fight because they're saying this, when that may not be the case. But that's kind of the energy that comes along with a Mercury and Aries. Argumentative, yeah. See, I haven't read these either, so I like go through my spiel and then I'm like, it's pretty much what this says, but
Yeah.
was she angry?
With your beautiful interpretation.
Spin on it, yes. So, again, Taurus, Mercury, think of Taurus energy, practical, logical, conservative. The way that this person speaks, they're not going to be one that lashes out. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, let's do this. There's not a lot of spontaneous there. There's just more conservative and just thoughtful and kind because, Taurus pulls in that Venus energy. So the way that they communicate is not only practical, but it's calming and kind of beautiful and sensual and all the things that Taurus represents. So when you have a Taurus in Mercury, you have those qualities, which are, again, I like to listen to people speak when they have a Taurus Mercury because they're just kind and I sense that. And I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Gemini and Cancer.
Yes. So Gemini, again, they are the ones who love to communicate. They love to learn. Their mind is everything. Like that's what they're ruled. That's their whole being is communication and connection. And so if you have a Mercury in Gemini, sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze. Then you're a great speaker. You're more playful. So I'll go into Virgo when we get there, but a Gemini Mercury is going to be more playful, more funny, more light. They're going to be easy going more than some other Mercuries on how they think. They're not going to be too like strict or stern. So I would say very easygoing, very good at speaking. Sometimes I do find that Gemini Mercury struggle education wise. A lot of times you'll read that they're really good at education, but sometimes this placement, there's so much going on, so much energy, it's hard for them to focus. And so they kind of lose, they're really smart in certain ways, but they do struggle with school a lot because that's very structured and it's got to do this and this and this. And they're kind of all over the place because there's so much. It's hard to pin down a Mercury Gemini. So unlike the Virgo, the other one that's ruled by Mercury. And then Cancer. So Cancer Mercury is, if you think of Cancer energy, it's the moon, it's emotions. These people are very sensitive. They communicate very quietly. They probably are very soft-spoken. These people are very, again, it's harder for them to think. They're such fillers that it might take them a minute to respond and really communicate effectively for people that are really fast because they're like, oh, I need a minute because I need to like process this also through my emotional filler, kind of energy. So slower to respond. They can be very sensitive. Their feelings can get hurt very easily because when they speak, they say things so dear and true to the heart that if somebody like a Leo Mercury is like joking with them or an Aries, they're like, oh, well, that hurt my feelings because they don't really joke the same way. So very sensitive.
Mm.
Okay, now we're talking about the Leo Mercury. These are playful. Leos are playful. They like to have a good time. They kid, they joke. These are little jokesters. They probably tell jokes. probably inappropriate, but that is what it is. When you think of Leo energy, it's the sun. They like to be the center of the attention. So they probably demand to be seen when they're speaking as well. Like Virgos is more serious. Leos are like, hey, look at me. I want the attention on me, like in a playful, funny way, but low-key, they really want everyone's eyes on them because Leo loves attention. These people are very creative. I would say, very good actors in this placement because they are theatrical and they can sometimes be vain. So they want to be seen and they want to be heard, but they also are just, sometimes little brats, Leos.
That's so funny. I was learning Hebrew from someone with the Mercury Leo. And the first thing I learned was, of course, all the bad words.
You're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
No, they're naughty, but that's okay. That's how their mind thinks, and they're just funny.
Yeah.
Very light, kind of like Gemini. Leo and Gemini are kind of similar in certain ways, especially in this placement because they're light. Gemini has it more together. Like they're probably more quick-witted, but Leos are just light and funny. And they enjoy crude humor too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do not, but they do. All right, Virgo, Mercury. So this one, again, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. It's like double extra Mercury energy. They speak, they're very direct, they're great speakers, but like I said, a little different than Gemini. They demand their people pay attention to them. It's very serious. There's no joking. There's no playing. I was recently at a wedding, and the guy that was marrying them, what are they called? Why am I
like the
ordained the person that I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm like, I have it, but I can't think of it.
I'm like the person that was marrying the couple. He was really funny, and he was throwing all these jokes. Efficient, yes. So he was, making jokes, just part of it was he was like, oh, I didn't understand why she was into him, but then I realized he had a lot of money, joking, and it was funny, and we're all laughing, but then you see certain people not thinking it's funny, and I'm like, oh, this must be the Virgo Mercury. They're not, they're like this, and speaking after that to someone who's a Virgo Mercury, we were telling him about the wedding. It's my husband's father. And he's like, well, that's just such a precious time. And it should be, it shouldn't be about jokes. It should be serious. And they're doing this thing together, this life thing. It's not a light thing. And I saw his point. And I know, I'm like, you're a Virgo Mercury. You take it very serious. And they do. They take certain things so seriously that, they hold it to a different standard than some others, such as myself. I thought it was funny. But I understood. And I think that the dad is very similar to the son because I don't think he thought it was very funny either because he was just kind of standing there and I was like, it's a joke. It was funny. But yeah, a lot of people took it serious. Some people we laughed. So you could just tell in the crowd who were the Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, Mercury's versus the rest of us.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, it was funny. So yeah, it's a good placement. It's good to have. It just gives you a little more, the way you think is a little more serious and a little more, less playful. Libra Mercury. This is me. I feel like. So I'm pretty direct, but it's in a very tactful way. When I'm delivering bad news, I feel like I can say it in such a way that sounds so kind. I've fired people and I've had them thank me at the end of it. And I truly believe that's my Libra Mercury skills coming in. Because I'm like, you're really great at certain things, but these things you're lacking. And unfortunately, but, I'd be like, but we're going to pay you for the 2 weeks. And we're going to, if you need help finding anything else, let me know. I can look for you. That's a Libra. That's Libra right there, firing somebody. And
that reminds me. The Phoebe from Friends, when she would break up with people. I was like, I bet she has a Mercury in Libra.
She gives me mad Aquarius vibes, but I could see Libra too because she's you know, she's Aries. She's something air for sure, but I've always associated her with an Aquarius. But sometimes she is really nice. So I'm like, maybe not Aquarius. Maybe it is Libra. She's a really sweet girl. So I'm like, probably Libra.
There's like a whole episode about her breaking up with guys and like them thanking her and staying friends afterwards. And I was like,
That's Libra. Definitely a Libra thing, because I've done better in my older years, but I'm friends with all my exes. Like, I'm like, oh, it's fine. We weren't meant to be. It's fine.
That's hilarious.
I love it. All right. Very nice. Very kind. Scorpio, Mercury. So these are going to be a little heavier. They want to have deep conversations. They want the intensity of a conversation to be meaningful. These aren't people that just like to talk about, you know, the weather. This is not that kind of energy. Also, they probably don't like to talk much anyways, because this is kind of a placement of a feeler. It's a water. So they're not super like, their brains are more geared for like feelings and going off feelings. And sometimes that takes a minute to process. This is another processing sign. So when you have your Mercury in Scorpio, think of Scorpio energy. Think of Pluto energy. Like, they can be obsessive. They can be a little paranoid. Kind of a placement for depression. These people can be very, not saying that if you have a Scorpio and Mercury that you're going to be a depressed person, or if you have children, like, I don't want anyone to see that, because there are a lot of factors, but just watch out, because this is a placement that they can kind of go down a rabbit hole of like feelings or emotions or things, and cause them to feel depressed because of their thinking. Like, if they're reading too much negative things, or there's too much negative going on, they can really fall in that trap of depression for things like that. So just, if you do have children, this is you. Just think for things like that and try to help them see the light out of that. Sagittarius Mercury. So again, kind of like that Leo energy. They're funny. This one is a little bit harder because Sagittarius is a mind planet. Like, they love expansion. They love learning. They love growing. So this is a good placement for them. But when it comes to how they speak and what they say, they don't really have a filter. And a lot of times this gets them in a lot of trouble. Like, they find themselves like rebuttaling a lot or getting into legal matters because they, you know, like, maybe they get pulled over instead of being like, yes, officer. They're like, what the f you want? You know, like, they have a real rebellion for structure, and sometimes that can get them into trouble. So but they are very quick-witted, similar to Gemini, but a little different. Funny, crude humor, kind of like the Leo. Very opinionated. These people are so stuck in their way that they think sometimes that it's like my way or the highway, which again can be hard to deal with. Impatient, very much so. Again, that's just not a good thing to have in the way you think, is being impatient, but something to evolve through. They can be very preachy. Again, their opinions and their thoughts. These people probably run religion and things like that because they're very opinionated. They're very strict in their religions too. So good times. Sagittarius Mercury's. Capricorn. This kind of falls in line with Virgo a little bit. Virgos, very serious. Capricorns are that same kind of energy. They're serious. They're strategic, and they are very smart in how they do things. The way that they think is very geared for business or success or for whatever. Finding a solution. This is the placement you want to have. These people are thinking always like, how can we do better? How can we fix this? How can we grow? Like, not grow as far as learning, but like, if it's a business, I'm just going to business. How do we grow the company? How do we do this? These are great placements because they're so in tune with finances and business that they can just expand that and create something amazing. Their minds are geared for business. Yeah, being obsessed with results, I could see that.
Yeah, I like going through everyone's chart. I'm like,
no
comment.
Aquarius Mercury's. Oh, sorry. I did not get good sleep last night. I'm like over here trying not to yawn. I'm like, I might sneeze. I don't know if I need to yawn. These people are great thinkers. These people are expansive thinkers. They think outside of the box. They create new ideas. They are the innovators. They are just so powerful because they're an air sign. So intellect is everything to them. And they are also, unlike Libra and Gemini, they're pretty, I mean, not that Libra and Gemini are weak by any means, but they're very strong in who they are. So when they have a mission or a goal, it's very hard to change them. Like Libra and Gemini, we're kind of flighty, like, oh, okay, maybe we'll do this now, or we'll change to this. Like, these are direct, stern individuals that have a mission, and that's what they stick to. And they really create this different energy on projects and things that they can like create because they have such an expansive mind. It's you. But I mean, it's a great placement. I mean, Aquarius, especially where you have a Capricorn sun and an Aquarius Mercury, like you think already in who you are is very strong, but then to have a Mercury that's like really pushes you to think differently than like a stubborn Capricorn, it kind of gives you a different perspective and like understanding of how things work. You still kind of have that strong stubbornness, but it's for a good reason. Like you need that sometimes to get to the end and figure things out, but you have a way of like figuring things out that aren't the norm, which is unlike a Capricorn. So it's like you have this way of being like, oh, well, we're supposed to do it this way, but what if we do this? It makes more sense. And people are like, oh, yeah, that's way easier. And you get way better results. And you're like, okay, yeah, my Aquarius is shining bright right now. So that's that kind of energy.
I like solve puzzles in my sleep. So
yeah, exactly. Because your mind is so, I mean, you have a good combo for your sun and your Mercury because they're different, but they align. Like if you had which wouldn't be possible, but if you had a Mercury that was too flighty, it would be almost conflicting, like, oh, okay, like, well, what do I do? I change my mind, but then who you are wouldn't really align with that, if that makes sense. So this is a really good one. And then the Pisces, poor Pisces and Mercury. Pisces just aren't really communicators. They're dreamers, they're thinkers. Well, they are thinkers, but they're like so internalized. Having a Mercury or a Pisces Mercury is just, it's a little more challenging because they are feelers. They're so heavy in what they feel that it's like to process that takes even longer probably than any other water sign. But this does give placement for creativity and to be poetic because they are romantics. So they do find a lot of like beauty in speaking, like, but it's just probably not productive, like in how they speak. Like when you go to those, I'm the worst at like giving examples, but not knowing what to call them. When you go to like those shows where they do like a poem on stage and they speak it out, and it's like very beautiful and very heartfelt. And it comes out sometimes, but you get it because what they're saying makes sense, but it doesn't flow. That kind of gives me like Pisces Mercury energy. It's beautiful. There's a lot of meaning to it, but it doesn't flow in a way that we would comprehend it because the way that they speak is kind of just different. Just not as easily. It doesn't flow as easy. It's not like an Aquarius per se. It flows. It's like butter on bread. It's not the same.
My friend that's the Mercury Pisces is marrying the one that I talked about, the Mercury and Leo. Yeah. I'm their efficient. In February, I'm marrying them. So
I love that.
They've been together like 8 years. So I feel like they've worked out what works for them. And there are other signs like compensate for the Mercuries.
Yes.
They have 3 kids together.
Yeah. And that's, and having kids. So one communicates one way, which some of the kids may, be more, be more likely to understand, and where she may communicate a different way, certain kids may understand that or take to that easier. So you know, depending on what the kids are. I mean, that's sometimes a great dynamic is when you have kids and you and your partner are so different that you can like meet all the kids' needs. So
I have their kids' charts too.
oh,
I've
Now
had
that
it all. I did a whole
love
family
you.
reading for them like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, because they just had twins. And they planned it so their twins wouldn't be born during Leo season, so they could have a full house of water babies.
Cancer.
Yeah.
They're like, they're coming early.
Their oldest kid is a Mercury Aquarius, and their twins are Mercury and Leo, like the dad.
Oh, yeah.
So that actually works out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the Mercury and Aquarius and the Mercury and Leo, they kind of vibe too. I know they're polarities, but they kind of like can be assholes together. You know, like they like that. So the mom, she might be the sensitive one, and she might have to learn. And I'm sure if they've been together that long, she knows. She's chilling. She's not tripping on verbal things anymore. But so that's good. The kids are all chilling.
Yeah, I think that's so funny.
So yeah, that's Mercury through the signs of retrograde.
We did all of that in 36 minutes. Hell yeah. Now we can talk about the fun stuff. So I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. Do you find so that if people who were born during a Mercury retrograde tend to have an easier time during Mercury retrograde, or is that fake news?
I think Mercury retrograde is different each time. And maybe that helps. I don't think so because it's always in a different sign. And so I think depending on, like I say this with full moons, depending on what full moon is happening, that's kind of how it affects you depending on your mood. I have the hardest time with an Aquarius full moon, and my moon is in Taurus. And so it just, for some reason, that doesn't jive with me. Now, I haven't tracked Mercury as well as I should have, like I do the moon. I really track the moon in my chart and how it affects me. I journal my moon feelings all the time. But Mercury, that's something I should do because I feel like some Mercury retrogrades, I am smooth sailing. I am not affected. Nothing happens. I'm chilling. And then others, I'm like, what the is happening? You know? So I honestly, I haven't even looked to see what this Mercury, let's see, retrograde is in.
It is in, I think was it Virgo?
I don't know. That would make sense because like I was telling you earlier, my husband and I always communicate well. He's a Gemini Mercury. I'm a Libra. There's no issues with communication, but this weekend, this Mercury retrograde we were not on the same page. It was just, we couldn't get there. And so I think it depends on what is going through, what Mercury's retrograding in, and what your Mercury is in. Does that vibe? Does that energy? That's what I find. But that's me going off the moon. I haven't researched Mercury enough to say that that's how it is, but I will start.
I know. I was like, this is interesting data.
Yeah, Virgo is not the one for me. My car wouldn't start, and my communication has been horrible all weekend.
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be like having a pretty big struggle. At least Venus went direct this week, so that's one less.
Yeah, I know. I text my friend. I'm like, your relationship will be so much easier now that we're direct in Venus. She's like, thank God. I was like,
for real.
Fine, it's fine. Yeah. So
I'm like going through everyone's charts to see who is born during a retrograde so I can ask.
How have your retrogrades been?
Yeah. Okay. I'm like going through. No, those are for children. We have this comment too.
She says that, I mean, that makes sense. Mercury and Aries, I'm telling you, they're ready for war, and they're ready for a verbal war. Like she's not, I bet you're not like a physical fight person, but you are ready for some banter when it comes up. Like, oh yeah? Okay, I'll hit you with some facts. And Aries is strong. Like mentally, I like this placement because Aries, they can banter. Their feelings aren't going to get hurt, especially for someone with a lot of Pisces in their chart. I would be very cautious that you'd be sensitive, but you're not, because your Aries is a little badass.
Your Aries Mercury is showing.
Yeah. You're being a dick. No. She's actually one of the sweetest. But that's where I do see Pisces. Megan is very sweet, very kind. And that's not Aries energy.
No, Amanda has an Aries Mercury too, and she's also like the nicest person in the whole world, but you don't want to piss her off. We actually had a whole conversation this week with like Amanda's mad at you, like I want front row seats, but I don't want to be involved.
Don't want to be involved, yeah. I just want the popcorn and my little drink and just be like, ooh, shouldn't have said
that. It takes a lot for you to piss her off, but when it happens, it's amazing.
What is her sun? She's an Aries sun?
Aries sun, Aquarius, rising, Capricorn moon.
That's very interesting. I'd have to see like everything in hers, but when I see an Aries sun and an Aries Mercury, Capricorn moon can be very calming. Like it could really like bring her down to where she's not so hot-headed. But yeah, that's kind of
Pisces Venus. Maybe that's where more softness comes in.
Yeah, a sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah, she is such a sweetheart.
Yeah, because I mean, Aries they're a lot of times very like, but she has like a very fun and feisty kind of personality too. Just from the little bit that I've interacted with her.
Yeah.
So
very like fun and playful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very Aries like. My little water baby has taken up. I'm going to fight you, Jung too. But his Mercury is in Sag. Well, yeah. I mean, the fire signs. Did you lose me?
No, you're still here.
Okay, my screen froze. I'm just gonna let it be so I don't mess it up. But fire signs and Mercury are just typically more playful, more fun. They like to joke, they like to have a good time, and they're silly, and that's okay. They're silly in more of a feisty way than like air signs. They're silly in like a airy kind of way, like oh yeah, But the fire ones are like but it's fun. It's fun and playful. They love banter.
Yes, that I can say that for sure.
100%. My son, he's a Capricorn with a Sagittarius Mercury. He has a Sagittarius stellium too, but his Mercury's in Sagittarius. And he is like very serious, but he also, when he jokes, he's just such a dick. He's like, well, shouldn't have done that. I'm like, okay, Thomas, you're 12. Like, I need a little more
likes to know it all.
Yeah, exactly. No, he is very like, it's like dry humor, but it's still humor. It's still funny. It's still like kind of pokey and like, it's just his Capricorn gives it a little different energy. But that's he likes to make jokes.
I'm like looking. I have two friends with Sagittarius Mercuries, and they are both smartasses with lots of banter.
Yes. Yep. They enjoy it. They thrive in it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I don't have any more questions for you.
I don't either. My thing is froze. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there you are.
I'm here. I'm telling you, my thing is like froze. I'm just going to keep talking. And if you change slides, let me know.
What advice do you have for just people getting through Mercury now that maybe this is their first time learning about Mercury and they've never had to deal with it before because they've never noticed? What advice do you have?
So absolutely practice patience because, there's nothing more frustrating than having electronic issues, your car not starting, or when you're trying to speak to someone, them not getting you or you not getting them. So the important thing is to take the time, slow down. That is always what a retrograde is trying to teach you, is to slow down, evaluate the areas of your life that are really, these things are coming up and showing up, because when they come up, the obstacles that show up in our life are always to teach us something. Like, I can't express that enough. Like, I go through hardships, I have things happen. I'm not ever happy about it, but I am also like, okay, what is the universe trying to teach me? And a lot of times it is slow down. Like, we're in such a fast-paced life that it's like slowing down is okay. Going slower, you need to slow down, So my advice would be to meditate. Mercury is brain energy, brain power, thoughts. So sit with those thoughts. So in some cultures, Mercury is associated with Buddha. I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm saying this right, but it's associated with Buddha. And so if you sit and you meditate and you really let your mind not wonder and just feel and just kind of go through the things, it will help your brain power if you kind of like, I'm not saying pray to Buddha, but just kind of like pull that energy of like focus and understanding and patience and things like that. It can really help through these retrogrades because you're not so like, oh my gosh, because your brain's going 90 to nothing. Like meditate in the morning, make sure you're really slowing down and just living life.
Yeah. And careful with those contracts. Read them twice.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And also, if you haven't dealt with your ex's stuff, go ahead and change their contact name right now to DPU. So then everyone will be a DPU in your phone and you know not to answer because it's an ex.
Yep. Do not.
do not pick up.
Yes. Or just delete and block. I'm the queen. I will delete. I'm
finding a lot of power in that.
Listen, if you go through my husband, one time I showed him my block list on my phone and on my Instagram, and he was like, how do you even know that many people? I'm like, one wrong word, one wrong thing that I don't like, you get delete and blocked. Like that is, and I've had this phone number in this phone for like, I think like 10 years. So
wow. I've
got a nice little list. I do not tolerate, I mean, even my kid's dad, if he gets out of line, like we always work through things, but every once in a while he'll pop off and I'll just block him. I'll give him a few days and then I'll unblock it. Say, are you feeling better? Are you ready to talk about this now? And then he goes off. I don't even read the message. If I get a long hateful text, I just delete it and I block. I don't read it. You don't get my energy.
Protect your peace at all costs.
Oh, always.
I love that.
I'm the queen. My kids will be like, oh, they're about to get deleted and blocked. My kids know. They're like, oh.
You know, if it works, it works.
Yeah. I don't care what you have to say. If it's hateful, I don't want to read it. I'm not going to. And you wasted your time spending all this time sending this hateful ass message because I didn't read it.
Yeah. Hopefully you feel better, but...
Yeah, you got that out there, great. Because I don't do. I do have a funny story really fast. I had an ex go off on me. It's like when he would drink. This was a long time ago. He would drink and I'd get these hateful messages and I would never read them. But it was before I was deleting them or whatever because I was keeping them in case I ever needed them for whatever reason. But my old assistant, I was like, can you believe this? I showed her one time and we made it a game at my office. We'd come in, we'd sit in the boardroom, we'd have our meetings. But before we would have our meetings, she would read them. She was a Cancer Sun, Sagittarius moon. She'd be like, Rochelle, da, 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 and read it so dramatic. And we would all be dying laughing. I can't believe, and da, 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 and you did. And we would just be dying in my boardroom office. Like all of us cry laughing, like the best time ever. And, he to this day has no idea how funny his messages were to me and all my colleagues.
I think more men should know that we definitely read all of our messages out loud to our friends.
Yeah, and we
probably will make fun of you.
Yeah, we're laughing, we're crying, laughing. It's a grand time. So, but then I was like,
Go ahead.
No, I was just like, I just delete people now, but certain ones I keep if I feel like I ever need for whatever purposes. But
I feel that. My friend, her husband is a pilot, and she kept trying to tell him about Mercury retrograde. He's like very like old school, and he was like, oh, astrology, blah, blah. And so she's just told him like, hey, just around these times of year, take note of like when things feel like extra hard. And then remember that that's Mercury retrograde. And so like time passed, whatever. And she texted us this last week and was like, oh, he just came home and was like, is Mercury in retrograde? I was just at the grocery store. It feels very Mercury. And she was like, actually it is.
You were right on, sir.
Yeah, so like taking notes. It's just nice to know what the planets are doing. It's not saying they're gonna like change your life or anything, but it's nice to know what they're doing so you can honor it and work with them.
Yeah. Well, and I have people, especially, I think the full moon, because it was a blue moon or something, the news was like blowing it up, like, oh, the blue moon or full moon and blue moon or whatever. And so I had a lot of people that are not into astrology be like, well, what does this moon mean? Like all of a sudden, and I'm just like, well, it's in Pisces, so.
Yeah.
Gonna be an emotional one.
I went camping. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I don't need cell phone signal. I just gotta get out.
On the nose. Yeah. No, seriously.
Yeah.
But it's cute when people that don't really believe it are like, oh, well, what is this moon in? Oh, okay, and this, okay. And
Yeah,
so
I'm noticing it's like starting to become like a little bit more popular to like ask questions about it and like know what's happening.
yeah.
Like,
Which is
excellent.
good. It sometimes makes me sad because I'm like, all this stuff is like mainstream, and sometimes I see things and I'm like, oh, that is not, it's not how it is. But and I do have groups on like Facebook that I am in that I will comment certain things. If I see something, I'll be like, actually, it's kind of this. But then it's like, I want to say it in a way I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just trying to teach. Some
Yeah.
people are good with it. Some people are like, nah. I'm like, okay, well, you know more than I do, so good luck.
Block.
Delete and block. I don't want to see their stuff anymore on this page. Hide. It's happened a few times.
Oh, I love it. Again, here's our ad for our little Samhain retreat, October 20th to 21st. It's going to be a good time. So you can sign up. The link is in the bio and on our page. And you can follow us on all of the socials under the same name, Academy of Logic and Light. And then follow Elle. And for any like personal readings, message her. She's good. She's got 20 years of info.
I have a lot of things.
She's got a lot of things.
Also,
and then
I just want to throw. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Last week, I kept saying for the conjunctions, I was really talking about oppositions. So if you watched last week's, I'm so sorry. I was completely mixing up the opposition and the conjunction. So conjunction's good, opposition's opposite. I'll go through that when we go through aspects, but I do apologize because I got off the live and I was like, oh my gosh, this whole time I was using it as an opposition versus a conjunction, and
we'll get into it. Yeah, we'll get into that one coming up. Thank you so much, Elle and Megan, and everyone watching. It was good to see you guys. And then next week we're back with part 2 of Mercury, going deeper into the houses and some of the aspects. So that'll be super fun. I think this one's like, yeah, that one's gonna be. It's a little deep. Mine was rude.
Mine was hurtful.
Yeah, I was like going through it. I'm like, say what?
What house is your Mercury in?
6th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
There was some painful things in there, but it's fine.
You were so close to making it in the 5th.
My son's in the 5th house, so I guess
there's that. That's nice. Yeah.
All right, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.